Hello, we are the Ministry of the Real Truth. We of late have come across an incredible documentary video on ancient Egypt and ancient Israel and their connection, and also the Suez Canal. The video that we're going to have a look at, Northeast Africa and the Hidden Truth, is freely available in the public domain, public access, but we didn't want to generate for ourselves a copyright strike or infringement or copyright claim, so we found it on YouTube. This particular video documentary focuses on Egypt being in Africa originally, not being separate from Israel in what's termed as Asia Minor, the Middle East, or correctly the Near East. It also covers information on the Earth being originally one giant landmass with tectonic plates underneath, of which all geographical Europe sat on, until a great shift, an earthquake and molten lava separated all these plates. Tectonic plates shifted, causing a split and so forth, according to this documentary, and separated all, so you had rivers, seas, etc. in between the lands, separating the two, or separating several of them, i.e. Egypt, Israel, the Far East, and so forth. The narrator in the video talks of a certain location in Israel. He talks from a certain location in Israel, giving details on a Israelite or Hebrew tourist location or attraction. But we feel possible, due to filming time, they left out a lot of vital information. So we will show snippets of this video and hopefully not receive any copyright strike or infringement claims. Our video is for educational purposes alone. So we are going to start from where we paused it and listen to this man's information. It's very important.
Connecting back to this land, we consider Israel to be Northeast Africa. We are living here in the southern portion of Israel in what is known as the southern Judean mountains. And of course, we have to make this clear that Israel predates any Palestinian connections here to this land. When you look at the name of Palestine, it was the name that the Romans gave to the land formerly known as Judea. Now, I didn't say Jewish or Judaism, but Judea. So the Judeans were the people that actually lived in this portion of this land prior to it being named Palestine by the Romans. So this is what we consider to be Northeast Africa. We are sitting on the African tectonic plate. There are African species of birds and animals and plants that you'll find all throughout this region.
Why I took you here is that I want to show you that the country called Israel is sitting on the African tectonic plate. It's like all continents are sitting on a plate, okay? And these plates, sometimes they slide in, and they rub one another. And see, and what happens, that's what happens when earthquakes happen. The plates begin to slide among one another, and if you get a crack in one of the plates, magma will come up, like a volcano. A magma would come up, and it will cause, great devastation because of the volcano, but it's because of the shifting of these tectonic plates.
Without question, we are in Northeast Africa. We are landlocked to Egypt, with the exception of the Suez Canal, which was a man-made ditch, a boundary now between, in fact, it's not even really a boundary anymore since Egypt has reclaimed the Sinai Peninsula. But nevertheless, even those of us who are Pan-Africanists in our thinking and Afrocentric, we forget and we leave off that portion of Northeast Africa and don't want to claim anything beyond that. Of course, Afrocentrists are still fighting tooth and nail for Egypt to be included as a part of Africa, because most Egyptologists and anthropologists, archaeologists of the Eurocentric persuasion will say that Egypt is in Africa. They had to concede that, but then they still draw the line by saying that they weren't Africans like that. In other words, they weren't dark-skinned people. And of course, this is all part of the Great Deception. And the reality is that if they give up Egypt, ancient Kemet, if they give that up and say that that was a part of black Africa, then they will also have to give up Israel. And that's why they draw the line at Egypt, because if they give up Egypt, they've got to give up Israel.
Now, we're going to go over here, and I'm going to show you where Israel sits on the African tectonic plate, which means that Israel is northeast Africa. Now, when we look at this map, this is the Sinai. Okay? This is the Red Sea. This is Egypt. This is the Sinai. This is Israel. All right? This is Saudi Arabia over here. Now, if you see this in Hebrew, it says Haluach Afrikani, the African plate. Here it is right here. Israel is sitting right here. Israel is sitting on the Haluach Afrikani, which means that Israel is northeast Africa.
There is no Middle East area.
Okay, we're going to skip this guy. Skip that guy. I'm going to go to this guy again. Okay, we'll just let this guy finish.
Libya and Morocco and Tunis, they said North Africa. It's west, the west. We are in the north.
This is the Mediterranean Sea right here. So people say, well, why do you say, but it's Asia Minor? You know, when Europeans be talking about this Asia Minor, I ask them, where's Europe Minor? Where's America Minor? Okay, this is the only continent with a minor. And you know what that minor is? It's a minor lie. It's really a major lie. Understand? What you talking about, some Asia Minor? Where's Europe Minor? Where's America Minor? But see, when they say Asia Minor, they don't have to classify this land as being part of the African continent. And they want to call it the Middle East. The middle of what? Okay? The only reason why they call this the Middle East, because people here in England, when they would come down into the Mediterranean Sea and go through the Suez Canal, go into the Red Sea and go to Far East, go to China, they were saying they was in the middle of their journey.
We've done a great job in being able to demonstrate that this is Northeast Africa. And once we begin to look at it as such, and we stop believing this idea of Israel being a part of the Middle East. What do you mean Middle East? Is there an Upper East, a Lower East? What do you mean Middle East? It's a geopolitical term that the British, our good friends the British, that they used during their reign and their dominion, which has long since passed. The sun is long set on the British Empire. They no longer rule the seven seas, but they, in their world, in their worldview, they called this region the Middle East, and it made sense in that perspective, because going to their east, when they got as far as they could to their east, and they call that the Far East. And to this day, it's still called the Philippines, China, Asia, or Far East Asia, whatever.
But wouldn't they refer to it, if this is the far, wouldn't they refer to this as the near, as many do? Yeah. Okay, obviously it's in the middle there, so that's what they termed it, and the reason why, because the guy explained the British coming to check out Egypt, etc. They came down a certain way they deemed as the middle, or we're in the middle of our journey, and so forth. So that's what they termed it.
So when you look at going to those regions and passing through this region, passing through Syria, passing through Israel, passing through Egypt, passing through Afghanistan, Iran, etc., it made sense according to their worldview to call this the Middle East. It was the middle of their East. But no longer will a geopolitical term suffice for what we're saying is geological and geographical truth.
Europeans classified this area as the Middle East. You know, and then since this the Middle East, the other question, where the Middle West? Where the Middle North and where the Middle South? They don't have no geographical terms like that. And the only reason why they use that term, Middle East, because it disconnects the proper connotation that should go with describing this land geographically.
So, to me, what I
Okay, we're
understood,
going to skip this guy again. Okay, let's go. Here's something.
Okay? And then, over here at this map, they show you where the whole...
feel like Africa. So even now, after 22 years, I saw the culture, I saw the meal, you know, most of, there is no Middle East culture. All of these things came from Africa and also from this culture, or originally from here, from this land, from Jerusalem. And now to see the things properly Africa, not Middle East.
So, let the truth speak for itself. It's not my interpretation. It is in Hebrew. This is written in Hebrew.
And in Hebrew that says,
This says Luaka Afrikani, the African tectonic plate. That's where Israel is sitting on. Okay? And then over here at this map, they show you where the whole earth was called Pangea. Okay? This is when all the continents was together. Alright?
the whole earth was called Pangea.
Yeah.
What does that mean in Hebrew?
Pangea is like,
So Pangea, that was the name for the whole earth.
yeah, that was like, but that's a Greek name. That's not, got nothing to do with Hebrew. But then what they said, and this is true, the continents began to pull apart. Asia pulled apart, Africa, South America, and North America. Now, if you look at the continents, look at South America and Africa. You can just bring them back together and they'll fit like a puzzle. The Mediterranean Sea was created by these continents pulling apart. And that's what I'm telling you about those tectonic plates. Those tectonic plates pulled apart.
So that's when the earth, everything was one.
Absolutely.
Like a little baby.
Because remember,
Like a little baby, right?
right.
Okay. We'll end it there because this guy starts, the other guy starts saying, oh, this looks like a baby and all this sort of stuff in the womb. Okay. It's irrelevant. We are not too sure if they've left out the part on the Suez Canal. Okay, we have the North East Africa documentary here on Tubi. You can watch it in full. We are pretty sure that he talks about the Suez Canal and how it was created. It's either the guy at that location in Israel or the other guy talking about Pan-Africanism. The guy who said his name was Sah, he's a priest or whatever he was. He explained it. Okay, so we were pondering the Suez Canal and what they had to say, and we found information on it. That basically the Suez Canal, and it is in the Arabic, is an artificial sea level waterway in Egypt connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea through the Isthmus of Suez. Apparently this isthmus is like a dividing line or something like that between two countries or two areas. It's like a borderline. Okay, go define it. Don't rely on our definition of it. Go look it up for yourself. Okay, so it was dividing Africa and Asia, and by extension the Sinai Peninsula from the rest of Egypt. The 193.30 kilometre long, 120.11 mile canal is a key trade route between Europe and Asia. In 1858, Ferdinand de Lesseps, we saw him on a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show. We thought he was French or something like that, but he's not. He formed the Suez Canal Company for the express purpose of building the canal. Construction of the canal lasted from 1859 to 1869. The canal officially opened on 17th November 1869. It offers vessels a direct route between the North Atlantic and Northern Indian Oceans via the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea, avoiding the South Atlantic and Southern Indian Oceans and reducing the journey distance from the Arabian Sea to London by approximately 8,900 kilometres or 5,500 miles to 10 days at 20 knots, 37 kilometres an hour, 23 miles per hour, or 8 days at 24 knots, 44, etc., etc. The canal extends from the northern terminus of Port Said to the southern terminus of Port Tawfiq at the city of Suez. In 2021, more than 20,600 vessels traversed the canal, an average of 56 per day. The original canal featured a single line waterway, probably something like that, with passing locations in the Bala bypass and the Great Bitter Lake. It contained, according to Alois Negrelli's plans, no locks with seawater flowing freely through it. In general, the water in the canal north of the Bitter Lakes flows north in winter and south in summer. South of the lakes, the current changes with the tide at Suez. This canal, or the canal, was a property of the Egyptian government, but European shareholders, they obviously had some shares and stakes in it, mostly British and French, owned the concessionary company. So what does that mean? Was it something that was making them money? Which operated it until July 1956, when President Gamal Abdel Nasser, he was a Hussein, was an Egyptian military officer and politician who served as the second president of Egypt from 1954 until his death in 1970. Nasser led the Egyptian Revolution of 1952 and introduced far-reaching land reforms. So he nationalised the Suez Canal, an event which led to the Suez-owned Suez Canal Authority, SCA, of Egypt, under the Convention of Constantinople. It's a treaty. It may be used in time of war as in time of peace by every vessel of commerce or of war without distinction of flag. Nevertheless, the canal has played an important military strategic role as a naval shortcut and choke point. What's a choke point? Is that like where, okay, it's a bottleneck where an armed force was forced to go through that, to pass through it. Navies with coastlines and bases on both the Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea, Egypt and Israel have a particular interest in the Suez Canal. After Egypt closed the Suez Canal at the beginning of the 6-Day War, it was between Israel and the Arabs, right? 1967. A war was fought between Israel and a coalition of Arab states from 5th to 10th June 1967. On 5th June 1967, the canal remained closed for precisely 8 years, reopening on 5th June 1975. And talks about the Egyptian government, precursors. This is interesting. Ancient west-east canals were built to facilitate travel from the Nile to the Red Sea. One smaller canal is believed to have been constructed under the auspices of Senusret II, under the instruction of him, right? Or Ramesses II. Another canal, probably incorporating a portion of the first, was constructed under the reign of Necho II, 16 to 595 BC, but the only full functional canal was engineered and completed by Darius I. Remember that guy? He's the possibly the father of Xerxes, the Persian, in 522 to 486 BC. That's when he lived and died, probably. Second millennium BCE, James Henry Breasted, an American archaeologist, Egyptologist and historian. After completing his PhD in the University of Berlin in 1894, he couldn't get it in America, apparently. He was the first American to obtain a doctorate in Egyptology, etc. There are some dodgy claims about this guy, that he might actually be racist. Go do the research on that guy. It's just what we recall coming across on another video or information. James Henry Breasted attributes the earliest known attempt to construct a canal to the first cataract near Aswan to the 6th dynasty of Egypt, and its completion to Senserat of the 12th dynasty of Egypt. Yeah, that's, we recall now. Yeah, he was saying that the Egyptians were white, they weren't black, all this sort of stuff, which caused a big uproar, etc. The legendary Sesostris, likely either Pharaoh Senseret II or Senseret III of the 12th dynasty of Egypt, may have constructed the ancient canal, the Canal of the Pharaohs, joining the Nile with the Red Sea, 1897 to 1839 BCE. When an irrigation channel was constructed around 1848 BCE, that was navigable. They could go through there, they could navigate their ships through there. During the flood season, the Nile tended to flood over every now and again, but it was great because it left the black soil, fertile soil on either side, so they planted their crops. Everybody dropped what they were doing, whether you're a musician, an artist or whatever, a potter, and you planted these seeds, and then when it all came to the time where it was all grown and you had to reap that harvest, they dropped their tools again or their crafts again and all pitch in and help put it in a barn or a certain pyramid or something like that, whatever they did in those days. And that's why they always had plenty. And there's a note here: the flooding of the Nile has been an important natural cycle in Nubia and Egypt since ancient times. It is celebrated by Egyptians as an annual holiday for 2 weeks, starting August 15, known as Wafa el-Nil. It is also celebrated in the Coptic Church, the Ethiopian Church. There's information on the pharaohs who first started to create this canal. In the Meteorology, Aristotle 384 to 322 BCE, he wrote, one of their kings tried to make a canal to it, for it would have been of no little advantage to them for the whole region to have become navigable. Sesostris is said to have been the first of the ancient kings to try, but he found that the sea was higher than the land, so he first, and Darius afterwards, stopped making the canal, lest the sea should mix with the river water and spoil it. Strabo wrote that Sesostris started to build a canal, and Pliny the Elder, from 2324 to 79 CE, wrote, and his excerpt from that, canals dug by Necho, Darius I and Ptolemy. According to the histories of the Greek historian Herodotus, he was supposedly called the father of history, Greek history, etc. He covered the Spartans, the 300, which was actually the 900 that were there. So he has been deemed as an exaggerator. About 600 BC, Necho too undertook to dig a west-east canal through the Wadi Tumilat between Bubastis and Heliopolis, and perhaps continued it to the Heliopolite Gulf in the Red Sea. Where is that? Okay, it's not going to tell us. Okay, that'll take further research then. Regardless, Necho is reported as having never completed this project. Herodotus was told that 120,000 men perished in this undertaking, but this figure is doubtless exaggerated. It's verification that he tend to exaggerate his stories.